All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Smirking Gun. This is Rob here with another stream of consciousness kind of conversation that we are doing more and more here on the channel as we try to as we slowly come back to making regular looking content. And this month we're doing Netflix. I've got a month of Netflix, and I felt, well, maybe this is a fun time to do some catching up on some shows and movies that I've been wanting to see and talk about them, and get used to, talking again on YouTube more often. So, if you're liking this kind of format, like, look, we're just having a conversation here. All we really do on YouTube for the most part is listen to people talk about something we like or don't like, all that. And so if you're liking what I'm doing, you know, feel free to hit like and subscribe. That way, when I get back to doing regular stuff, on camera stuff, and other things, you'll be already in the know. And today, we've decided to talk about the first season of One Piece. And yeah, this is going to be, like I said, if you like stream of consciousness, uh, this is the place to be to talk about this because I feel like I'm the last person in the world to talk about this show. Um, Mostly because anime has never been my biggest thing. Might as well kick it off like that, all right? Because I just try to be honest about like things, and I was first introduced to anime. I remember when Siskel and Ebert reviewed Akira, Akira, whatever you want to say, and I was really impressed. But I didn't see it. Like I saw the review, and I was like, man, but I didn't really have access to stuff like that back then. I didn't even know really where to look for it, and I don't even know if I looked for it in Blockbuster. I think I was always looking for games and other things, and so it was one of those movies that just kind of. By the time I saw it, it was like years later. But I knew of anime, and it was my that review. It was like my introduction to that kind of world, and it stuck with me in the back of my mind. And I remember watching like Street Fighter 2, the one that had like the like Alice in Chains on the soundtrack and shit. That was like a huge selling point for me. 'Cause I remember like when they were playing like Dem Bones during the movie. And I think it was like somebody driving a sports car. I don't remember if it was Ken or something like that. And I thought that the animation was pretty decent. I was more in love with listening to the music. I was never a big Street Fighter 2 fan. I'm not a big combat like video game fan. I'm not really into Mortal Kombat or any of that stuff. Um, but I thought that the animation was pretty decent. And then I watched. I finally saw Akira, and my first impressions of Akira was like, again, I was young and I just didn't get it at the time. I really didn't get it. Like I get it now. I've gotten it for a good long while, but for about I'd probably say like from the time I saw the movie, probably took me a good 10 years probably before I really understood that movie. Um, and I was always like, I never got fully, like, anime still wasn't anime yet back then. Like, it was still underground. And the people that were really into it, just like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. Like, those things were all still really niche. I mean, D&D is getting, like, I don't know if we can even call D&D niche anymore, or if we ever did. When did that stop? But um, anime was really niche back then, and there's always somebody with like a copy of like Vampire Hunter D or Ninja Scroll, which Ninja Scroll was like the thing that made me go, "Oh my god!" Like Ninja Scroll had my like jaw on the floor because like you got to remember, I was just a little ex Jehovah's Witness, like wet behind the ears, like nobody's business. Like I didn't know or shit. Everything was new to me. Everything was like amplified and met, like just this crazy, like, I don't know, like everywhere I looked was a new thing. So like seeing Ninja Scroll with that kind of mindset was like, holy shit. And it wasn't hard to understand. It was also downbeat, which was something I was noticing, and I've talked about a lot, is like just how downbeat everything is. Like it all looks cool. There are so many like crazy plots and characters. And I was like, man, these movies and stories are always like really dark. Back then, I didn't really like that as much. I still was like full of light and naivete, I guess. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, when that dies, that part of you dies, that's a sad day. Like you try to like get it back. I've tried to get it back. I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm getting better again at that. Try to find the light a little bit more or enjoy the light more. Not everything has to be so dour or so real. But anyway, so yeah, I just found a lot of it like really, really downbeat. Ghost in the Shell, I really liked the action, but I just kind of, at the time, like I really like it now. But again, it was like anime. Anime was too much for me back then. And that's, I mean, as I'm talking about it now, I'm like, if I really have to face it, it was just like, it's like a lot of people that have to just struggle to find their way to something. Like you can't force things on people. Like nobody was forcing it on me, but I was just not ready for that kind of storytelling and that kind of way of thinking. And as much as I have like this crazy big ass imagination, it just wasn't ready to handle, I think, a lot of it. A lot of the themes and stuff that were just like there and probably maybe bothering me, maybe triggering me. I don't know. And then there was like all the stuff with like Power Rangers that started a whole trend back then that I was thankfully I'm sorry everybody that likes this stuff, all right? This is a generational thing, I think. But I've never liked giant kaiju stuff. I've never liked the giant fighting robots thing. I thought Voltron was fucking badass. I'll say that. Voltron, the OG Voltron, man, and I don't know. I think the new cartoon wasn't too bad if I remember correctly. That's what I saw of it. Otherwise, I just never got into it, and I thought it was so I mean, it like I used to say that I didn't watch Doctor Who because of how poorly it looked, like how just cheap it looked and how fake it looked and how I had the suspension of disbelief. I just couldn't get there. Well, that's how I was with Power Rangers. I was just like, what the fuck? I just couldn't do it. I just was like, there's a line, and this show crossed it with me. Like, I watched everything back then, and there was just like, nope, nope. And to be really honest, I think that's why, like, as much as I love the original Ninja Turtles movie that looks, with the guys in the suits and shit, and I'll defend it, I think that was like the last time I liked anything like that with people in suits and stuff where I was supposed to suspend my disbelief. I think that movie was the end, like, where I could just do that. But Power Rangers was nope. And this is how my conversations go, folks. If you're like waiting to get to One Piece, we're getting there. This is just a build up. So Power Rangers, no thank you. And then you had like a few years later, maybe that's when Pokemon came out, right? A couple of years later, somewhere around there, like 95, 96, 97, 98. When was it? But I was just like, no. Again, to all of you that like it, I look, I gotta give it up. It's lasted forever. All this shit, like, I guess, this is the downside of the nostalgia, starting the nostalgia thing, like Gen X being like super nostalgic and dragging all the shit we love with us, right? We're dragging all the things we love with us to the grave, man. And every generation has been caught up in that wake too. So we are just pulling you along with this nostalgia train. So Pokemon being so huge still, I gotta give it up to you. You guys kept up with it. You guys kept up with Power Rangers and all this other shit that I don't like. But hey, not everything has to be for me. Not everything has to be for me. And that's another topic in and of itself of everyone thinking that everything has to be for them. And if it's not, fuck you. I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to dog it. I'm going to talk shit about it until everybody there, all the joy is sucked out of the thing to where all we're doing is arguing and arguing and arguing about it. Because our lives are so fucking small and empty that the fact that anybody could get joy out of something that I don't like is just beyond me. Ooh, boy, baby. I could have gone down a real dark path if I hadn't stopped myself just then. Mm, but that's what I'm talking about. Oh, boy. That's where you gotta like pull the brakes off, man, because it starts to get, you get. This is kind of what they, that kind of talk gets you though. Like they want you to get all riled up, and they can say, "Oh, you said some shit about this. People aren't happy." Blah blah blah. So, backing the car up. Yeah, not everything has to be for you. It's okay. So, anime has just never been that big a thing. I've appreciated it. I like my anime like I like my techno. Like I listen to the most popular shit because it's just the stuff that like feels comfortable. Like when I got into techno, and there's like when techno first got big and electronic and everything, like there were so many people doing it, so many, and still are like people doing underground like techno stuff. But like the big boys back then was the only thing I had time for because it was something that again I wasn't that into. But I wanted to be progressive enough in my thinking to where I could listen to some of it and like it, and appreciate it and be able to say, hey, like this has value. Give it a chance. Find stuff in it. So find the sound that you like. And for some reason, on these things that I am not as into as other people, like anime or techno or what have you, I still try to find aspects of everything that I can like, so that I can have some kind of common ground with somebody and progress as a person. So like I would like, like the Chemical Brothers and Fatboy Slim, the big boys. And same thing with anime, right? I like, Ninja Scroll. I like Akira. I like Ghost in the Shell. I like Vampire Hunter D. I like, and I'm going off of old school stuff, and I fucking love Cowboy Bebop, which will be something in this conversation that we get to when we talk about One Piece and on Netflix and its success comparatively to Cowboy Bebop. But like, but then if somebody asks me, have I seen this, that, and the other? I just don't, because I realize like it's these things are so big and so huge and been going on for so long that I just don't have the time for it. And even with One Piece, the animated series, when I'm like season 19, this thing's been going on for how long and how many episodes? Good, oh my god! It's a daunting task to try to jump in when it's especially when I've got a whole bunch of other interests. So this is a long way of saying like, look, my opinions on these things, like these things that have these great big you know fandoms, um because yeah, like anime is not niche now. Anime is the thing. Like it took over, which was where I was getting to with like talking about Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Power Rangers and all this stuff that came up, and then the popularity of shows like Bleach and Naruto and all these things that have been going on for a really long time. And with whether you're talking about the manga or the animated series that come out, or just the countless other things, this is a whole other world. Like just like how I found Dungeons and Dragons all of a sudden when I got into watching Vox Machina, which led me to Critical Role, which led me to everything else Dungeons and Dragons, which led me to my being in my own, finally playing in a campaign in real life. I opened myself up to it. And here we are. I've got this whole new thing that I love in my life. And so I keep trying to come back to anime though. I keep trying to give all the different iterations a chance. And so we get to this show, and I can't not talk about this show and not talk about Cowboy Bebop. because one of the reasons I had many reasons, but instead of like having to talk about this in two separate videos, I'll talk about this here because I am still planning on making the "What the hell happened to your channel, Rob?" video. You know, it's one of those things. It's just like you really got to be in the mood to sit down and go, "Okay, everybody, let's get real serious." But the failure of Cowboy Bebop and how Netflix handles things um, with shows that they want to get you like super into it. They want you getting talking about it. They want you to be subscribing, and they were looking. In the end, they're just looking for who's how much engagement, how many new subscribers did we gain for these shows. And I really wish that Cowboy Bebop could have gotten to Netflix before they started canceling a bunch of things all like immediately. Because I stand by like that. Cowboy Bebop was so fucking awesome, and I don't care. I really don't care what anybody says. It's like sometimes you just know you're right, even if everybody tells you you're wrong. I feel the same way about that show Deadly Class too. Still, like I will scream from the top of the rooftops, even now that Deadly Class is like there's Firefly, there's like Deadly Class, there's Cowboy Bebop. Shows that just are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Cancel this? Yeah, what? Huh? And I remember Chris Stuckman's review because I used to hang on every word that Chris Stuckman said. You got the anti fans out there that are just terrible and nobody should listen to. That and a lot of those guys started out as regular ass reviewers until they decided to become scumbag fuckhole grifters. You got those kind of people, and then you got people like that are huge, like Chris Stuckman, who like I'm not gonna say that his like reviews are bad. A lot of times he and I have the same kind of takes, and like I said, I used to hang on every one of his words, but the more and more, whatever. But he had, I respected his love of things, and he really liked Cowboy Bebop, the show, the animated series, the original. And when he reviewed the new Cowboy Bebop, and he got all up about how it was just too like the source material, and that he wanted like a new experience, like he wanted new episodes. And this guy, he's a big influence on like what people think. And this guy who usually would be praising the original being respectful to the original source material, and it was, but it wasn't at the same time. It was trying little new things here and there. And for this guy who like, and I know that this probably had nothing to do with it at the time, but I was just like, is this what people think? Was like, are you seriously going to say that this thing that was like really faithful to the thing you love and could have gone anywhere with it? Because it did go places that were like crazy and strange and different, and not just like the original show. But then that show gets canceled like immediately, and it broke my heart. And it kept happening, where I was getting into something and Netflix would cancel it, and I'm trying to cover things that to help to grow my channel, right? And things that I'm really wanting to talk about and grow my channel about, things that I'm like, oh man, this would be great to be talking about for the next 4 or 5 years. And they just kept canceling things till where I'm just like, I just stopped wanting to review anything on Netflix. Where it turned into quickly where I canceled Netflix because I don't like their way that they were doing things. That's how you show, really, really, really show somebody that you want change at these corporations, is you stop paying for the service. I mean, even as I say this now, and I'm like, man, I kind of feel like I'm betraying that, but there's some things that I wanted to like watch, so I still got it, and that's why it's like I'm trying to get through it as fast as I can, so I can cancel it again, and not give them any more money than they know they're gonna get from everybody who like loves cinema and TV shows. They know that they're eventually gonna get you for at least a month, but I just I just could I didn't want to do it anymore. And then I watched this One Piece show and I see already like that. Well, first off, you didn't hear that it was canceled after like less than a week. And then when I finally get on the site, it says like it's official, another season's coming. And this is before I watch it, and I start watching the show, and this is like we're not getting into the actual conversation about One Piece yet, but I start watching the show, and then I went back and I watched the first 3 episodes of the anime because that's another part of this is I've never watched the anime. I've tried several times. Um, I've never gotten past the first episode, and again, I think it's mindset still. I think, and some of it's the energy that comes off in some of these animes. It's just like, whoa, Jesus Christ, calm the fuck down, somebody. I mean, somebody take a breath here. But I got through the first 3 episodes, and I was watching as I'm watching the One Piece live action. I'm like, wow, this is pretty accurate. And I'm like, okay, so one show that's super accurate gets canceled, and another one that is also super accurate doesn't get canceled. And I'm just trying to figure this out. This would be a part where I would like to hear in the audience, like the comments section, like from about is why the discon like why didn't like what do you all think was the disengagement from that? Was it because One Piece is more relevant now still, and Cowboy Bebop is the old grandfather of everything, and that people just don't know about Cowboy Bebop as much as they know about One Piece now, or what? Was Cowboy Bebop just this like unfortunate sacrifice? Like it came out at that wrong time when things were getting the axe and they were making extreme cuts, which they all still are. The streaming services are it's just as I predicted, man. It's chaos. Everybody's switching back and forth, making deals again, coming back together. It's all just a joke. So I'm a little butthurt. I am. I'm gonna admit that I'm still a little butthurt about Cowboy Bebop, and like I'm happy for the success of One Piece. But I mean, and I'm just gonna say it, like Cowboy Bebop is for me better than this. It's just a different tone, a different style, and I like the Cowboy Bebop style more than One Piece. That's just me. It is. It doesn't take away my enjoyment. So I might as well say right off after how long have I been talking? Jesus, 22 minutes. I liked One Piece. I liked the first season of One Piece. I really did. And as I talk about this show now, uh, I won't really spoil much. It's going to be more like again like like what does this show will make me think and feel about it, and like and comparatively to the anime. I mean, I felt like it was pretty accurate what I saw, and I liked that. And that's the only thing that kicked off the whole Cowboy Bebop thing. It's like, man, how did one is this just a casualty of Netflix or not? But I'm also off of. I think one of the reasons that I don't like get as much information anymore as fast as I do is because I'm off of social media mostly. YouTube's about it, and I'm on my Discord. I hear things about things from my friends, or I stumble on it on my YouTube feed. But I really dug, after all is said and done, like I really dug One Piece this first season. I really dug the fact that I don't have to be like there's no big actors. This is an unknown cast to me. Only like, from the top down, man. If I've seen anybody in anything, I don't really remember them. You know, even some of the couple of like older British guys or wherever they come from in European. Let's call it European instead of trying to nail down where they live specifically. But even them, I was like, I think maybe I've seen them in something, but I don't. So I don't have to like, and since I'm not that familiar with the anime characters, at least their designs I'm familiar with, and I thought that at least the designs, a lot of these characters seem pretty decent. Um, and I liked this world, at least the setup and the story of this world, where everybody's out there, you know, this pirate gets killed, and now it's all these years later, and everybody's been chasing the One Piece. But it doesn't sound like it's one of those things that's too talked about yet, at least in the show. You know, it doesn't feel like it's as hyper, like people are as. I think it feels like there's like a lull, and that maybe this Luffy character is kind of raising interest in the One Piece by going, you know, being so loud and like brazen about I'm doing this. I'm going to be the king of the pirates. I'm going to find the One Piece. You know, screaming it to the top of the top of his lungs. Um, Now, as far as the acting goes, like if there's going to be problems with this show outside of okay, like if I'm going to complain about it, let's get the complaints out of the way. And it's a complaint that I have about a lot of things right now, especially like Disney Plus stuff. Is I feel like I'm looking at an action like an action stunt show sets. The sets look really shitty. Um, I think a lot of people might complain that it doesn't have as bright or as colorful a look as it should. Because I look at the anime, and it's just like sunshine for days. Like that is one of the brightest color palettes I've ever seen in an anime. Because it's all out in the wide open ocean, right? And it's bright, it'd be bright as fuck. But they spend a lot of time in darkness, so like darker rooms and stuff on this One Piece set. And I think it's partially because they want to hide the fact possibly that the sets don't look great and that any kind of real scrutiny, it's how you edit too. Like like they spend a lot of money making those guys look cool in makeup. They spend a lot of time showing you that those guys look good in makeup because the makeup works. The makeup effects are great, but the set design was left. Somebody didn't get them, there was where the budget was cut. Because it looks like you're walking around in stunt shows, just like the Book of Boba Fett and other things like of that ilk. That just take me out of it. It makes me feel like if I was at the One Piece theme park, I could be sitting there having mozzarella sticks as these actors play out a scene from the show around me. Do you know what I'm saying? And we'd all clap after the scene was over and be like, don't forget to tip your waitresses. But the world and the story are strong enough for me to keep me still in that world, because it really did take a lot. If the story wasn't so like interesting, I would be completely taken out of it just by the sets alone. um, Now as far as the actors go, like this is like one of the things with new actors is you're not going to always get the best performances because they're still finding their way. They're in a new, especially in a first season of a show, you've got a bunch of pretty green actors, so everybody's learning. This is like a learning experience, so I'm thinking season 2 we might get some better acting, but it's not always acting, some of it's writing. And look, there's some fun writing on this show, and then there's just some basic stuff. But I think that if you're young and you've never, seen these stories before, if these stories are brand new, and I don't mean this story, I mean universally the stories that are told everywhere that we've seen a million times, the older you get. If these are, your first time seeing this kind of story, it's going to be amazing. And the writing probably isn't that bad to you. And you'll grow up and you'll see, like I did, when you go back and watch some of the old cartoons you liked and you swear, oh my God, they were amazing. Like Transformers, right? Like I go back to the Transformers, man, and the animation, and I love the robots punching each other, but the dialogue is garbage. A lot of the garbage, it's just a lot of garbage dialogue. And the dialogue here isn't always fantastic either. So it sounds like I'm dogging on it now, right? But I think that everybody in the cast did a really decent job for like what they have to work with. And again, for me, because I'm all about story and character, folks, and for me, this real strength of this show is the story, and then the characters that are built, put into this world that make it interesting. And I find that all the different contexts and all the different ways that these different characters are coming at their struggles and stuff is really entertaining, and all the things that they want. And this whole season basically setting up the foundation of Luffy's crew and what their goals are and where they're headed, and having to get past some obstacles along the way to get to like a much more probably episode to episode adventure filled uh, series. And I think that this first season is a good example of how you get a first season done and get through a bunch of things that you could normally take like seasons and seasons to do, right? Where they would just jam in filler episodes and not move plot along. This was, I think, a little bit successful in keeping a tight story that got you where you needed. And maybe if I had to complain about the finale, it's that it had way too many setups for future stuff. Like, we ended the main story, like two of the main conflicts, like one about a third of the way through, then 2/3 of the way through they finished the second conflict, and then the third they just kind of say, okay, and this is where we're all going, and this is what our problems are going to be. And that's different, because a lot of times it feels more like cliffhangery, and this didn't like really leave any cliffhangers. Like a lot of season 1 and 2s have like crazy cliffhangers on shows. This didn't. This was all set up for new adventures, kind of like some of the best adventures do, where it's like, where do we go from here? Like the end of A New Hope, right? You don't know, like the end of it is them getting medals. You don't know what's going to happen after that. The sky's the limit. They didn't. And so I do feel like this season did a really good job at telling a bunch of succinct little origin stories, removing like conflict, adding conflict. So in those respects, I think that this season did a really good job of doing that and making sure that every like one of these characters gets to stand out and have something to do. Um, I want to definitely point out Jeff Ward as the only actor on this cast that I know. All right. So there was like the old, and this is why I say again, why it's a good thing a lot of times if it works, despite itself or whatever. Um, Not knowing a cast, not knowing the source material can be a benefit. And because as soon as I saw Jeff Ward in there, I was like, oh well, see, now Jeff Ward better be good in this. That's what I was thinking in my head. And you know what? He was. Jeff Ward and I bring him up because he's from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, everybody pours some out on the concrete for our old friend, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that we always talk about here. Jeff Ward was on the last couple of seasons of that show. Anyway, I thought he was really good in this as Buggy the Clown. I thought perfect. Perfect. I thought he did a really good job. But like I said, immediately, as soon as there was actor recognition, he was I put him in a different category. I was like, he better, he better be good. I didn't do that to the others. I didn't. If he had been bad, I'd been like, you know. So that's a weird thing, but just pointing out how we point things out. All right. So what else about One Piece? Okay. So we were talking about the actors. Yeah. Look, I thought that everybody did a really good job. I thought that they represented their characters all right. Now, as far as representing them in the anime, I don't know. I think Luffy's portrayal in the show and in the animated series, um, I don't know how people want to even say that. Should I call the original animated series the show? And so there's One Piece, the show, and then there's One Piece live action. How about that? Well, I think that there probably are some pretty extreme differences between the personalities, or at least the way that they're portrayed. I think that the actor in the live action series brings a pretty decent energy, but I think that if they brought all the energy that the animated one has, it would be unbearable after a while. Um, I really enjoyed Roronoa Zoro, played by Mackenyu. I really liked him. I thought he did a really good job, and I really liked his backstory. I also liked Sanji, played by Taz Skylar, and I can't believe I'm liking anybody with the name Skylar, folks. Also, Skylar is his last name. What? So there's like the Skylers. Oh my goodness! I guess that's that. I guess I just never thought about it. Anyway, reach for the Skylar, Taz Skylar. He was really good as Sanji. I liked his backstory too. I really liked his backstory. Him and the chef. Like these were genuine episodes too, folks. A thing that I've been complaining about is things feeling like one long movie. This show, episode to episode, felt episodic and still moved the story along. Oh my God, I've been starving for this. And I think that's one of the reasons why I had to talk about it was because, oh my God, I felt like I was watching a show again. I've been watching so much Disney, and it's like all I keep watching and complaining about is, man, this doesn't feel like a show. This feels like a cut up movie. Emily Rudd was good as Nami. I liked her. Again, everybody's backstories were really, really good. Even Luffy's, and I liked how that all came down. And again, the acting, not always the best. But again, if your story and your characters can push past all of that still, then it works. It can still work. And that's where I found it working for me. Um, I loved the conflict that he had with his grandfather. I loved how that gets resolved. Like it maybe seems anticlimactic to some, but I feel like it. Some things really do have to be like where two characters just have to meet and talk it out, you know. And I was surprised at that. That subverted my expectations. You know, we already had the one big giant epic fight, and then oh my God, we're gonna have another one, and it's just I thought that way that was handled was great. Um, and like throughout all the different episodes, all the different like villains, the guy, the butler with the freaking swords and stuff, hands and all that, just madness and different and wild. And one of the things I'll say about anime is that it goes some crazy places I haven't ever seen. And I used to always go backwards to find really good stuff once I feel like I had watched all the good shit in my generation. But now, like, I am looking forward to being a more avid anime fan. And that's kind of the point of the whole beginning and now the end is like talking about how I was always like just grabbing onto like the most famous stuff and not looking into more and more things. When that's what I do when I'm on YouTube. I look for the smaller things that maybe nobody's heard or has a bigger following or whatever. And that's what I finally find myself starting to do more and more with anime. It's like I'm watching more of it because honestly, it's just more interesting than a lot of the stuff that they're putting out there that are supposed to be the big shows. You know what I mean? The big popular shows, the big like either comic book or Star Wars and other things. I'm starting to branch out more into anime. I'm enjoying it, and I'm rewatching some stuff that I really liked before. I'm getting back into Full Metal Alchemist again, and looking into one. I'm gonna keep watching One Piece, and I've been watching other things. So it's like dabbling my toes, but I'm feeling it out there. I'm seeing what's cool. I'm seeing what grabs me, and that's what I think. Like progress, man, mental progress. If like there's things to like in everything. You're gonna find your thing. So stop being anti-fans out there, people who have to just complain about everything because it's not for you. Like, do you really have all the time in the world to watch everything? If everything was for you, or is it just the comforting fact that everything out there is fine and safe and comfortable for you? But anyway, I've talked a lot, and I talked a lot about a lot of different things, and not probably not as much about One Piece as probably people would expect if you're new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, this is how it goes. I'll probably be kicking myself, so I'm going to give myself a second here to try to remember some things about One Piece that I really wanted to say here. I really liked the action. I really liked how they handled his powers. I really liked that butler, how just creepy he was. I liked there was a lot of creepy things in here, and it was dark, and it was really dark. And yeah, maybe it was a little bloodless, which I didn't like. I kind of wanted a little bit more gore and a little more mature content here. But like there was some pretty serious stuff going on in this lighthearted, like pirate show. And I guess that was the one part I was going to talk about that I missed was piracy and this love of piracy. Like how there's good pirates and there's bad pirates and the popularity of pirate culture and things like that. I could go on and on and on about it, I guess. But I mean, it's not surprising that something like this is popular. Pirates have always been popular, and I don't want to lecture people on why they're popular, but I mean, these days when life has got, I'm going to say the majority of people down in this country, especially economically, stories about this kind of pirate, the one that's going to go out there and fight a system that holds them down and keeps them from having the things that other people have and representing, the power and the disparity of wealth and forcing people to do whatever it takes to stay alive, survive, protect their friends, protect their family. How would that not be popular, you know? And why it's always been popular. The Robin Hood kind of thing. I've always thought that Robin Hood would be an interesting pirate story if they were like, well, what if it's Robin Hood, but on the seven seas? But that's basically all the big pirate stories are some kind of rob from the rich type of story. We're taking from these people and giving to ourselves, and we're free, right? It's a lot of this is about freedom and being out there and doing what you want and not having anybody be able to tell you what to do. And anybody that is, just trying to put you under their yoke. And I like that. I think that it's funny that we love all this stuff in fantasy because we can't do it in reality. And maybe I should have liked anime the whole time. Maybe the reason I haven't liked anime as much is because it reminds me too much of myself. Maybe the down note is actually me. And when I see down things, it's just a reflection of the way I already feel. And maybe sometimes I don't like the way that that reflects on me and the way I think. We just went a lot of different places in a very short period of time. And before I say any more, I'm going to end it right there and say if you like what we're doing here at this channel, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I really did like One Piece, and now after this conversation, I feel a lot better about looking forward to season 2, getting into more anime. And you can find me on Smirking Rob Plays at Twitch, all one word, if you want to watch me play games and occasionally talk about stuff and occasionally do watch parties and things like that. And through all that, that's it. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.